my next guest from the NFL Network, one of the all-time great Jacksonville Jaguars, 9 seasons in the NFL, Mr. 8-Clap himself from UCLA, Maurice Jones-Drew. Good to see you, sir.
It's been a great weekend for me.
Oh, that's
really
right.
has.
UCLA beats USC.
Yeah, it was, Jacksonville, we stumbled a little bit. So, how that is.
I was with you, on game day morning. I lone wolfed him. You were talking him up all show.
It was there for us. But to bring me back, the Rams had to have arguably the greatest game ever. I mean, it was amazing.
What was that like in the booth calling that game?
I've only slept like 3 hours because we were just so energetic. It was just going back and forth, scoring on defense, finding ways to make it happen on offense, both sides. To see Tyreek Hill in person, how fast he was, craziness.
How fast is he?
Too fast. He was just walking past people, it seemed like. And when you call the games, because you've done it, you have to have that energy. Well, it was just like natural to have it in that situation, and it was just like you couldn't go to sleep after.
Well, these guys were in the building. In the
were
stands.
you?
Yeah. They were in the stands, and
it was
they've been raving about it all
I've never been in a football atmosphere like it.
It was nuts.
And you've been at Super Bowls.
And that was
Were you at the 28-3 Super Bowl?
No.
Oh, I think that's the next.
Well, the final score wasn't 28-3.
It wasn't, and that's why
he was not there, but he was at last year's Super Bowl, which was electric. Even though his team didn't win, but it was that had that obvious feeling about when you're 54-51. It's amazing again that teams that scored 50 points in the history of the NFL going into last night were 216-0, and now that record's 217-1. That there was a win and loss added to both sides of that ledger last night. It's crazy.
Well, I feel like after what Sean Payton did on Sunday, you had to top that, right? They were scoring at will whenever they wanted to against the Eagles. And then, these teams, I don't know if the Chiefs will play them. Maybe if they make it to the end. But, I know the Rams will probably play the Saints again, and you have to be able to score points like that. But it was just Mahomes was threw the ball, 80 yards in the air. Jared Goff went down the field. They found a guy they wanted to attack in the second half in Sorensen. They got after him a little bit.
Mahomes threw 6 touchdowns and a pick 6. He threw 7 touchdowns last night, technically. It's crazy. And that's what everyone's talking about today, and is the death of defense. We got John Harbaugh coming up next hour. I'm going to ask him about that. We talked about it with Chris Collinsworth in the first hour. That defense, as we know it, is dead through the scheme, through these players, through maybe
I think it's
a combination of things, rules.
I think the rules have changed.
Schedule.
Yeah, it's a lot. But really, defense in the NFL is not like it used to be in college and back in the day in the pros. It's now about getting turnovers. That's all they care about. Find a way to get the ball back or let them score quick so we can get the ball back on offense. It's kind of that Big 12. I'm trying to think of, I would say ACC because they do a lot of quick strike offense, but when you can score twice on defense, you have to win. It comes. But the Chiefs went back down the field and scored and took the game over and then had opportunities.
Well, they scored on defense themselves too.
Yeah, it was so much going on. The one thing that I do, being a running back, I was a little disheartened because no one ran the ball. They didn't have any.
What happened with Gurley? It seemed like he was out. Is he hurt?
No,
he didn't play towards. We saw a lot of Brown last night, certainly in the red zone too, in the first quarter. Normally, Gurley's out there every touch.
Well, early in the year, Gurley didn't come off the field. And I think right now they're trying to kind of manage his touches in certain situations.
It's an odd time to do it, right before a bye week in a game where you've got an opponent like that.
No question, it is. I don't know. I talked to him last night for a couple minutes. He's not banged up. I think Steve Weish from the NFL Network talked to Les Snead. He said the same thing. Sometimes you just feel like with your best player out there, they're kind of gonna key on him a little bit. You can use him in different situations. So you saw a lot of play action pass. And on the call, I was like, it's just crazy that this team keeps fighting for the biting on the run when they only ran the ball 3 times.
Maurice Jones-Drew here on the Rich Eisen Show. What makes the Rams offense so good? Put a finger on it here.
Everyone can score. Granted, Cooper Kupp went down, and that really hurt them. But to see Josh Reynolds, Gerald Everett finally kind of coming to their own, Brandon Cooks, Robert Woods, they're both Tyler Higbee. Then both your running backs. Anyone can score on that offense, and they make them all interchangeable. So you can line up at wide receiver as a running back and run a route that no one's seen. You could put Brandon Cooks in the backfield, try to sneak him out. And if he's not open, Gerald Everett beats a guy. They find ways to put their guys in position to be successful. And then Jared Goff does a great job of really picking the right guy, reading the coverage. But I think the best play of the night no one talked about was when he kind of Euro stepped and finger rolled over the goalpost. Shows you how athletic he is.
Well, Maurice, you know where I come from. I think the best play that nobody's talking about last night was after Sean McVay got very aggressive on the Rams' final possession of the night and allowed the Chiefs to get the ball back with a minute and a timeout in their back pocket. And Johnny Hecker boomed one all the way to the end zone line, from which Tyreek Hill decided to bring it out and flip the field. Punters are game sealers too, is what I'm saying.
Well, Johnny Hecker's been doing that for a long time, and he struggled a little bit this year, but I was the gall to kick it to Tyreek Hill in those situations.
Well, I mean,
right?
there's gall all over the place. I mean, in all honesty, the fact that McVay didn't run it, but he's consistent. He did that against the Raiders in Week 1 when he was up a bunch. He's consistent. There's a lot of gall and cojones and testosterone all over the lot, man.
It was when you like the more I've called these games, the more I understand Coach McVay. He plays the. It really is like he doesn't understand. It's not like he doesn't understand. He doesn't care about 4-minute offense. He's trying to get a first down the best way he can, and that's the rules in 4-minute. Now, there's other rules that you may say, like don't run out of bounds or don't throw the ball, run between the hashes. That doesn't matter to him. He's just trying to do his best to get a first down to make you burn all your timeouts. And sometimes in that situation, you'll get an incomplete pass, and you'll have to kick it back to one of the most dangerous returnmen. But he trusts his special teams, coaching his special teams, to put the ball where it needs to be. And then, those guys that tackle, which, again, Tyreek Hill, Week 1, returned a punt against the Chargers. I would have never kicked him the ball. I don't have that. I'm trying to work back out to get that confidence back in me, but I definitely don't have that right now.
So what do you take out of the game? I asked this of Collinsworth because we all want something portable. We all want to know who's making the Super Bowl, who's making the playoffs, who's going to be in a bye week. I mean, what do you actually remove from a game that had 105 points and everything except a special teams defense? A special teams touchdown last night.
You have to be able to score points to win this league. And I know once the playoffs come, teams will play small ball, which will try to shorten the game a little bit. But I know being with the Rams, no one wants to go down to New Orleans and play, right? They don't want to have to go to the Bayou. So you're hoping New Orleans stumbles and loses a game so that you can get the 1 seed. And then in the AFC, watching what the Chiefs were able to do, I don't know if there's any team that can score like that. I know the Steelers can score, but they were scoring at will whenever they wanted to. And the only times they didn't score, there was a turnover.
Mahomes is incredible, isn't he?
It's unreal.
There's not an arm angle. There's not a body position. There's not any situation that he cannot just athletically excel at. And then neck up, if that just keeps getting better and better and better, how is this not quarterback, 2.0, 21st century of that style of offense you just talked about, Big 12 type offense?
Well, Andy Reid's done a great job of utilizing the things he did in college well, and then kind of just magnifying those pretty much. But you saw his youth show up at the end of the game where he was trying to make a play instead of like taking the check down and different things like that, which you'll grow with. But when you have an arm like that, you have a play caller like Eric Bieniemy's calling plays. That's my guy. I got a bunch of texts from a lot of the guys on their staff who I played with, either in college or in the pros. They were like, it's hard to swallow a 51-point loss. Like when you score 51 and lose, he's like, but we'll learn from it and we'll go forward because we probably should have scored more. And I was like, score more? How do you score 50 points in the NFL? There's high schools. They can't score 50 points. So,
well, they did leave points on the field. They did. They gave points away. They made mistakes. Trent Dilfer, who I love and I follow, said that was bad football last night. That Sean Payton is sitting back and laughing because there were quarterbacks who made wrong decisions and that there were too many mistakes that a team like the Saints playing as they are playing right now would capitalize on against either of these teams in an NFC Championship game or a Super Bowl.
Well, I think when you talk about Drew Brees, the one of his big attributes is he doesn't make that mistake. Rarely do you see him make that bad read or not throw the ball where it needs to be. So that's a different type of pressure. And when you get it, when the Rams face them again, they'll understand that. When they went down in the Bayou and we were watching the game, it was back and forth like this too. It was going to be 50-50. It was real close, but Drew Brees made some mistakes, and then they corrected him on the sideline. Then they went on a run at the end of the game. But you have to find ways. And I think Aaron Donald, Samson Ebukam, that whole defensive line, and Ndamukong Suh, they deserve a lot of credit as well. I know they got gashed, but when they got to the quarterback, I mean, the ball came out. It wasn't like they were just getting sacks. They were getting sacks and the ball was coming out at the same time, which for a young quarterback, when you got guys coming at your legs or guys hitting you consistently, you stop looking down the field. You start looking at the rush. And that helped out as well.
Well, I think Maurice Jones-Drew here, after calling the game for the Rams radio network and going to be on NFL Network tonight here on the Rich Eisen Show, I think we can safely say that's an NFC matchup, Rams-Saints. We just don't know where it's going to take place,
right,
with all due respect to every other team in the NFC. And, of course, Jerry Jones thinking that there are many Rams-like qualities to his current construct of the Cowboys offense.
Yeah,
with the ultimate respect, I think that's what we're going to get. What do you think we're going to get in the AFC?
I'm a little hurt my Jags aren't in there right now.
Well, they
my
could have
Raiders.
really put a major crimp in the Steelers had they held on to that 16. All right, let me just get to this real quick before I get the answer I want to the question I just posed. I know that I don't trust Blake Bortles, okay? But come on. Those three just hand it off to Fournette at the end of the game. And the last one is a mesh point handoff that Bortles just hands it off and runs away. Like it's not even a question as to whether Bortles still has the ball. It's nuts, man.
Yeah, you know what?
The last one we're looking at it right now, radio audience, like where he just and he just runs to the sideline.
Well, that shows you how frustrated he is about it too. I mean, he doesn't talk a lot about his frustration, but I think quarterbacks and competitors, they want the ball in their hands. And when you hear that play call come in, it's kind of like, give me opportunity. But I mean, it speaks volumes.
What's going on there?
It seems to me that in certain situations they don't trust. They'd rather lean on their running game. I mean, again, and Leonard Fournette's done a great job all year when he's played to run the ball, and they've been a better team when he's playing. But in certain situations, I think you need to throw the ball, at least try to find a screen pass in there or something where you can try to get, chunk yards, I guess, in a sense. But if they were able to win that game, I mean,
well, they'd be in the mix for the final
that's all
wild card spot.
That's all you want because you play everybody in the playoffs too on the way there. So I think something similar last year where it really they started playing really well at the end of the year. This year something happened. I really can't put my finger on it. Is it that Fournette wasn't there for almost a month? Is it the defense struggling because Bouye was out? Is it what Ramsey said earlier in the year? I really don't know. I have to get down there and talk to some guys, but I really felt like this was a game to get them back on track. And you started to see them play the way they were playing, the way they played last year. It's just, Pittsburgh got hot at the last second. But going back to the AFC, you would have to say Chiefs, Pats. I mean, a lot of people think about the Chargers, and I love Gus Bradley, and I love what the Chargers are doing running the ball, but you can't lose at home to the Broncos. And some may say the Colts. Some may say it's the Colts and what they're doing. But I don't. What I just saw last night, I don't know if the Colts can score like that.
You know what? Because I thought to myself last night, I'm like speaking to myself. It's so sad. And I'll stop doing that right now.
It's all right.
Who can score like this in the league? You got the Chiefs, you've got the Rams, you've got the Saints, you've got the
Colts.
No, the next one I thought of was the Bears.
See,
what we saw on Sunday night, and we talked about that with Chris Collinsworth earlier. What you see, you need guys all over the lot who can get open. You need speed. You need guys who could score from anywhere on the field. You need a quarterback who's got it, and it looks like Trubisky is getting it. And you need a coach who's dialing it up, and Nagy's doing that. He comes straight from Andy Reid.
Yeah.
I'm thinking the Bears are next in that mix right now.
Well, when I look at the Bears, the one thing that concerns me is there's some throws that I've seen Mitchell Trubisky, that you're just like, ooh. And those are the throws that are going to hurt you in the long run. If you make that ooh throw, like, oh, that wasn't a good one, or who are you throwing to, that when you start to question, like, who is he throwing to there?
Well,
and he's young.
Didn't Goff do that last year in year two, really? First year with McVay? Didn't he have a few of those throws?
He had a couple of those, and that's what it haunted him in the playoffs, right? When they went and played the Falcons, he had one or two of those, and obviously Matt Ryan didn't. And then those are the plays that I think that's going to concern you when you go down the road. But you know what? That's a great matchup. It'll be on Sunday night in a couple weeks. Well, it'll be in Chicago, it'll be cold.
Yeah, I mean, and Pittsburgh obviously can score
Pittsburgh
like that.
I mean,
and you've got the Colts that have played that well. So, I mean, last question for you on this, just the omnibus question here. Because to me, if I'm a fan of a team, I want it to look like the Rams, Chiefs, Steelers, obviously, Bears, Saints. Like, that's what I want it to look like. I want it to be that way. The Patriots are just an interesting conundrum where they do have weapons. They've got the GOAT back there. They've got a strong running game. I'm just wondering if they're not equipped. Is that a fair thing to wonder? Like, can they win a game like last night if they get into that shooting
Well, they
match?
beat the Chiefs in a shootout.
They did.
And so I think as long as it's just like the Packers. The Packers rosters, they're trying to figure it out. But as long as you have Aaron Rodgers back there, you'll be in every game. With Tom Brady, as long as you have Tom Brady, you'll be in every game. It just comes to your defense making a turnover and getting an interception or getting the crucial play that you saw against the Packers, that you saw against the Chiefs. And their defense is opportunistic. They'll find ways to get the ball out or get a turnover. And that's all you need in this game. And that's what you saw last night. I mean, there's 3 defensive touchdowns. Have you ever seen that in the game?
Well, certainly not. I've never seen anything last night.
Yeah.
No, I've never seen anything like. We've never seen a game that's been where both teams scored in the 50s, 105 combined points. There were 3 defensive touchdowns. Like I said, Mahomes threw a pick 6 and 6 touchdowns. It's nuts. Last night was absolutely nuts.
I want to say it was 91 points with 9 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and I was like, ooh.
The Rams had 1 fewer fourth quarter possessions than the Falcons had the entire game against the Cowboys.
See, now that's a stat that blows my mind.
The Rams had 7 fourth quarter possessions last night.
That's a.
And the Falcons had 8 the entire game against the Cowboys. Fact. It's nuts.
I think Jerry was thinking his defense is more like the Rams' offense, where they can do the.
Hey, Jerry's defense isn't too shabby, man.
Oh, they're
Jerry's
playing
defense,
well.
That Leighton Vander Esch is no joke, man.
He is. I have to. Byron Jones is playing better too.
Yeah, I mean, and then those guys on the front 4. I think Washington.
They call themselves the Hot Boys.
The Hot Boys, as you
They
know.
think this is Lil Wayne and Juvenile and them.
Great to see you on this show. Yes,
no
I
problem.
think that's what they do.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Back
do.
it up, Maurice.
I do think so.
I appreciate that.
The Hot Boys.
Hey, they're hot right now.
They are that. Good to see you, man.
Good to see you
Thanks for
as well.
stopping on here on the way to NFL Network. Really
No
appreciate
problem.
it. Get some rest later on. Just 3 hours sleep, huh?
Yeah, you know what? I couldn't go to sleep. I tried my best. I just sat in there and I just watched the replay, and
It's amazing.
it was unreal.
I'm so glad you got to enjoy it professionally as well as just stopping by here to talk about it. Thank you. That's Maurice Jones-Drew at MJD on Twitter.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.